When we're talking about adrenal fatigue, what are the major signs and symptoms of adrenal fatigue?
So something that's really big and that's very, very common is the groggy in the morning, but tired, but wired at night.
Mm-hmm.
So in the morning, and this kind of shows you that you have a cortisol imbalance. In the morning when you wake up, you want cortisol to be higher. That gets you up and gets you going out of bed, and you're like, all right, I'm ready to start my day. But if you wake up and you're just like groggy, it's hard for you to like get out of bed and you need coffee. If you're one of those people that like, don't talk to me until I've had my coffee, that lets you know that there could be an imbalance with cortisol, right? And your adrenals are just exhausted from the constant output of that hormone.
Mm-hmm.
Now at night, if you are laying there in bed and let's say you're trying to fall asleep, like you're tired, you're like, I'm ready to sleep, but you cannot fall asleep. You're laying there awake. Cortisol could be higher at night when it's actually supposed to be down, right? Because cortisol and melatonin, they oppose each other. So melatonin is supposed to kick in at night, somewhere between 9 and 10 p.m., get us nice and sleepy and relaxed. And we're like, all right, let me get to bed. Let me lay down, close my eyes, and you should fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
If that process is not happening and cortisol is higher, melatonin won't come out and you're going to be exhausted physically, but you're going to be laying there like wide awake. So that's a really common one, that imbalance. Another thing too, yes.
Why would it be? Why is the cortisol coming out more so at nighttime?
It really depends on the individual. So if there's an imbalance in cortisol, again, if it's a little bit lower in the morning or if it's higher at night, it could be because you've been running on stress hormones all day long. Sometimes if we do certain things, like if we have a coffee in the afternoon, that could really push our cortisol levels up. Depending on what type of workout we do, when we do that workout, depending on our food, on our stress levels throughout the day, all these things can really throw off our cortisol levels.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so if we try and push through this adrenal fatigue and we take the sugar for the 3 p.m. slump, if we're taking coffee first thing when we wake up, because often, when we're adrenally fatigued, we've got no appetite. We don't want to eat first thing in the morning. So if we're taking coffee first thing, also coffee in the afternoon, sugar to get us going, these high intensity workouts, what happens if we just keep on pushing through all of this? What happens when adrenal fatigue is left untreated?
Yeah, I mean, short term, again, you can get this imbalance, right? Of, okay, when I want to feel energized, I'm not, so I need the stimulants. Yeah. When I'm trying to fall asleep, I can't because my cortisol is off. Like you mentioned, no appetite. That's really common, like low or no appetite in the morning. So that really like suppresses your metabolism, which we'll get into. It suppresses your metabolism. It pushes stress hormones up even higher without getting any food in your body, right? It could really lead to a blood sugar dysregulation as well. If your body is kind of constantly secreting cortisol, when cortisol goes up, so does your blood sugar. So then down the road, you can really see, short term, you'll see some issues with your energy, the afternoon slump. You might get kind of lethargic in between meals, lightheaded, dizzy, those types of things. Sugar cravings really strong. You feel really thirsty, even though you're drinking water. Long term, though, you can get really dysregulated blood sugar, which that brings on a whole other slew of issues with your hormones, with your metabolism, and so on. You become less, your insulin levels are incredibly sensitive. So yeah, that's a whole other slew of issues, and I think the really big impact of that long-term adrenal fatigue is that metabolic dysfunction in a nutshell, is because your body's priority is always to keep you safe. So if your body is getting the sense, or rather your brain, they're connected, but if your brain is sensing constantly, okay, there's a stressor here, a stressor there, a stressor there, and it tells the adrenals, okay, you need to keep secreting these stress hormones, right? Basically, your body's job now is like, okay, you're under so much stress. Our job is just to produce all these stress hormones to keep you safe, so that way you have what you need to fight off these stressors. But then all these other areas will suffer because now that's no longer a priority of your body. So digestion is one of the first ones that a lot of people notice, where They might be constipated, they're gassy, or they're bloated no matter what they eat. Food sensitivities come up. Your gut becomes a lot more sensitive, we could say. Your gut lining becomes more permeable. Your gut, creates more inflammation.